Hey everybody, good afternoon. I thought it was morning. Let's see what happens when you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and wake up and oh my goodness. Yes, I'm still trying to wake up. When I get cold and I can't get warm, I got my robe on, my hat Barb made me many years ago. And they say the heat goes out of your head. Well, I always wear this to get warm. Of course, I have my slippers on. So back to my story about Paul. Yeah, I could still see him. I walked in there and laid my CV on the counter, and what was her name? God, I can't even remember her. I could see her. And she had a daughter, but Peggy, that's her name, Peggy. Baba, do you have to get my face? Good morning. Tell everybody good morning. It's not morning, it's afternoon now. Aunt Lisa came and you got scared. Huh. Okay. Go sit up right up here. Her name was Peggy, that's right. And, oh, wait, hold on. Good afternoon to everyone out there. Let's have some more coffee. I got a headache coming on. Yeah. Yeah, I woke up at 3 o'clock this morning. Why in the hell? I don't know. Everything was dark. So I made up my sourdough, and it rose up high and then fell back down. See, now look at that. I could look straight on. There we go. And so I added some more to it, and I scraped around the little container. I transported it to another container so it could raise. I'm going to make some sourdough donuts for Nick. I found a recipe. But it's got to rise up some. So tomorrow I'll make them some. I got on the internet and looked. And then Ginger and I finally talked. And she was just going to bed, and I was just like, now it's about 4 o'clock. And I had a cup of milk, and I laid here. I went back to sleep, and I didn't know it was noontime. I thought it was still in the morning. But, yeah, how I met Polly was, like I said, today he would have been 81 today. He was born 1944, May 27, 1944. And he died 2019 on October the 7th, Ginger's birthday. So I guess I was thinking about him. I don't know, but I laid back here with my 2 blankets, and then I had that dream. It was so real. Gosh. Yeah. So I met Polly many years ago, driving a truck, walking in his shop. Never thought I would meet another dang Yankee, and I did. And laid my radio down there was a bunch of guys in there, and Peggy was in there, and she was real sarcastic to me. She's lucky I didn't come across that counter to smack her one. That's how hyper I was after having a little bit of caffeine, just getting back home from Texas, I think it was. Hold on. And it just, well, okay. And I laid there on the counter, and he goes, she goes, if you don't have a receipt, real sarcastic to me. I looked at her and I said, I got a receipt. My friend brought it in. Now it sounds like shit. And of course, I had a Cobra 29. I know people don't know. Dan, you know what a Cobra 29 is. So, and he turned around. I could still see him. He had his hat on. That's over there that he wore. And that he had his arm in the sling. I think it was the right one. And he had these suspenders on. I still, isn't that weird how you could remember things like that? And he had his hair done up in a ponytail. He turned around, he said, "Yeah, woman?" I said, "Oh," I shook my head. I said, "Another damn Yankee. What in the hell are you doing here?" That's what I said out of my mouth. Well, with me driving a rig and him having a radio, he fixed my radio. He didn't put no leaner in it. He gave me a loaner until he got my radio. And I can hear him. I'm on the other side of Nashville, almost into Alabama. I could hear him as plain as day. Well, then he finally fixed my radio. He gave it back to me, and he says, "Oh, I'll be calling." He worked nights, and I worked nights. So he would call me on my cell. Yeah, I had cell then, an old cell. And he would keep me awake and get me to my destination. I would keep him awake. And then we became friends. Then when I got off the road, I took some time off and got off the road, driving a truck. What was I thinking? And then I started driving for Wilbert. I had a good job driving a truck, not being around any people until I started hauling people to doctors and hospital. What have I done? I really lost my mind. One day I had to go pick him up. And I'm like, I know this address. Why do I know this address? Well, there it was Paul. I said, "I cannot believe I'm picking you up. You have a business and you're on TennCare? What's wrong with this picture?" So, something didn't meet the eye. So I took him to the doctor. And of course, we're both Yankees, okay? And we both think we're right. And he sits up front, and I drive him all the way to Vanderbilt. And I told him, "This is where I drop you off. This is where I pick you up, because I don't have time to babysit you all. Wherever I drop you off, this is where I pick you up. Please do not make me late for my next appointments to pick up people." I could have killed him. They call me, telling he's ready. I go back to Vanderbilt where I dropped him off, and he wasn't there. By that time, I was borderline hot. He was all the way around the other side by the children's hospital. When I finally got him in the van, I let him have it. I didn't care if everybody heard me or not. And I told him, "What the hell were you thinking? I told you where I pick you up, that's where I drop you off." Brought him back home and said, I told Wilbert, "Never again am I picking him up." And he made me pick him up every time. I was like, "Why?" Oh, I thought I was going to kill him. Well, then I took some time off because driving the truck, and then, just trying to slow down a little bit, because working so many long hours driving a truck, and then got back in the vehicle again. I think right before I started working for Wilbert, Paul called me up and said, "Would I be his beck and call?" And I'm like, "What?" He said, "You could go with me to Texas." Yeah, Darlene, I went to Texas. We went to San Antonio, Texas. I flew in with Paul to help him get dressed for the ceremony. What was it? He belongs to the VFW, and he was getting an award. And I found out how Paul is. He didn't like spending money. So I went with him. I told him, "If you piss me off, I'll be on the next plane back home." I told him, "I'm not putting up with your shit." I went with him. Nick mine. we get down there, we fly in, they come pick us up in San Antonio. It was really nice. I got to ride on that boat. We went to Alamo and, we saw different things. And then we went to I guess it was hospitality, all the hospitalities, rooms. Every room was there, from all different states. And that's when you could smell it coming off the elevator. It smelled delicious. I don't do hot and spicy. Deb knows that I don't do hot and spicy. Got off the elevator, you could just smell it. You could smell the gumbo, and it smelled so delicious. I took one taste. By that time, Paul said, "Don't touch that." I remember "Don't eat that," and it was too late. I put it in my mouth, and my eyes lit up big time. Oh, my God. My tears are coming down my face. Paul's like, they're shoving bread at my face, and I'm like pushing it away. And you gonna throw up on me, Bubba? No? You okay? Okay. And Paul's like, eat the bread. And I'm like, I don't want the bread. I need something cold. My tongue's on fire. My face is red as could be, like my hat. And my eyes were watering, and my throat is burning. And I said, what happened? And the guy says, I might have put too much tobacco sauce in it. I said, is this what's in this? He said, yeah. I wanted to kill him. That day, I had to go back to my room. I was in so much pain. But I ate the bread, and it took the pain out of my tongue, let me tell you. I didn't think it was funny. No, I was not happy. I went back to our room, and I tried to calm down because I was so much pain and crying because it hurt so bad. And they all were come back and check on me. Paul was a drinker. I am not a drinker. I don't like liquor. But I would help make his drinks for him. I didn't know what I was doing. He said he always liked vodka and Sprite. To the end of the day, end of the year, before he passed, he sat out there on that deck and drank his vodka and ginger ale or whatever that was, Sprite. You know what? No coffee, Bubba. So after my mouth calmed down, he pissed me off for doing something. I don't know what he said. So I went for a walk by myself. And then I got worried because I don't know Texas, because he's been there. And, I guess he was worried, because I went with him. And to make it up, I wouldn't talk to him. To make it up, he said something to me. I don't know what it was about. I wish I did, but I don't remember. And I remember, come here, let's go shopping. I'll buy you something pretty. I found me some pretty earrings. They were a little expensive, but he said, this is what you wanted, this is what we got. And they're the turquoise ones that I always wear. They're turquoise. And after he got his award from the VFW and then I knew some of the guys because he belonged to the VFW in Dixon. And then like Linden and where else? All the little towns around, I knew the guys. So they would come to the VFW in Dixon. I didn't go there much. He did. But that's how I met Paul. And then we would, then I went back to work. And then of course, I lost my job. Nick said it was like a nervous breakdown. Well, yeah, when you work 12, 14-hour days, 7 days a week, yeah, something's going to happen. Well, Nick just fell off an RV out here out front. And I saw that and all the stress from Wilbert working long hours and long days. And I sat out in my medical van out in my driveway, and then my boss calls and said, "You going to work today?" "Yep, I'm going to work today." He said, "Where are you?" And it's about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I said, it was hot. It was summer night. I says, "Well, I'm somewhere." "You're somewhere. Where are you? You know you're supposed to be in Jackson and pick up somebody taking to Memphis, right?" "Yeah." And then he's still talking to me, and I said, "Who are you?" And then he knew something was wrong. Well, when Nick came home from work, he rushed me up to Vanderbilt. Thought I had a stroke. And I didn't. It was too many hours, 12, 14 hours, 7 days a week. Yep. So when I say, "Danielle, you working them long hours, take time for yourself. Make sure you take time. And if you got a stressful job, make time." I tell the kids, you don't want to do like your mother did. I had to give up my keys because I love driving. I've always loved driving. And and I didn't know how to be a homemaker. Here I've been working since I was 11 years old. And then everything comes to a stop. And then, holy hell. I mean, I don't remember 2 years of my life. I really don't, because I knew something was wrong. I couldn't explain it. And I love driving. You know, I drive all the time. As long as I put my head straight ahead, I was okay. But if I turned it just a slight, I felt like a semi was on top of me. It was the weirdest feeling. I can't explain it. You ever felt like, I felt like I was here, but I wasn't. I was over there, over there. I felt like I was in or out of the body. It's just the weirdest feeling, I'll tell you. And that went on for a couple of years, 2, 3 years, and then have panic attacks. I didn't even know what a panic attack was until I lost my job. When I had to hand back my keys to Rita, because I didn't know how to be a homemaker. If I didn't have my sewing, I'd really be in a pickle, because sewing kept my mind off of things. I didn't have a long arm at the time. I didn't have that yet. But yeah, that's what happens. And when Nikki fell out here, I bought an RV at a yard sale, and I was working on it, and Gary gave me some of his power tools and working on it, and saw him fall and hit the ground. And you see how hard our ground is with all that stress. And my job driving 12, 14-hour days, and I'm the only one that's bringing any money in because Dick's not with it yet. It just, everything stopped you in your tracks. And I mean, when you're overexhausted, your body, I don't care what it does, it will stop you in your tracks. And that's what it did to me. It stopped me. So if you have a real busy, crazy job, make time for yourself. Get away from, get out of the car, stop what you're doing, do things for yourself. I tell my kids that all the time, because I don't remember 2 years of my life. I really don't. And I didn't take any drugs either. Zero. They wanted to give me drugs to bring my memory back. They wanted to give me drugs to help my depression. Yeah, everybody, I had depression. I mean, I couldn't leave my driveway and leave my house and go to the driveway without having a panic attack. Let me tell you, them panic attacks are bad news bears. But, and then Paul, now I'm here at the house 24/7. My two friends that are no longer here, Fox and I used to drive for the senior citizens, and then Paul. And, oh, and Don Johnson. My best friend, Don Johnson, just passed away. They're having a tree lighting. Oh, let's think. June the 7th in Lexington. I got to go to the Tabernacle Church in Lexington. I can remember that. I got to look that up. Long story about him, too. Oh. Yeah. But, so the stress, like I said, if you have a stressful job, make sure you do other things so you don't go off the rocker like I did. And I knew something was wrong. They asked me who the president was. I couldn't tell them who the president was. I didn't know my kids. I didn't know what year it was. That's how bad that stress got to me. And I kept complaining about my head hurting really, really bad, right about here. It made my whole top of my head numb. And that's why they ran more tests. And then, you all heard of Centerstone. Centerstone is like people that go talk to, like the mental health people, Right away, I had a good therapist. His name was Brian Hartthorne, I think his name was. Brian Hartthorne. Worked for Centerstone over here in Summertown. And I sat down in his office. I said, I know I'm not crazy. What the hell is wrong with me? And the first thing came out of his mouth was, you were overworked. 12, 14-hour days, 7 days a week. We went from 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. Told Wilbur, man, I can't work like this. I'm not the spring chicken like I used to. But I would never say no, so that was my fault too. And then when it really got bad, I said, Wilbur, I can't. And then we were having these computers come on, like we had to have iPads. What happened to just regular paper? We were doing fine until the iPad came into the situation. Oh my God. I think that too did me in. And I'm not the only one. Gary and Marvin and Joe and a couple of other ones too were, these people in Georgia, I'm not knocking them. Southeast Tran is from Georgia. Now they think that we all can do it within 30 minutes to get there. There's no way in hell. These people don't know where all these people live. I think that got stressed me out too. And yep, when I had to give back the keys, that right there, I'm like, what? So I went to Centerstone. And I sat down, and Brian's, of course, I'm upset. I can't understand what's crying, Right away, then we'll give you drugs. I'm like, no, you ain't giving me drugs. I don't do drugs. Uh, he looked at me. He says, "The best thing that I can tell you what you need to do." I said, "Yeah, okay. What is it?" "You need to get back in the car and drive." I said, "Are you out of your blooming mind? I can't even drive out of the damn drive without having a panic attack." He said, "That's what you're going to have to do." I said, "All right, I'll try it." Well, I couldn't remember where I was. I got in the car, took my Honda Fit, and went out in the country, and I didn't know where the hell I was. I mean, seriously, did not know where I was. And when I freaked out and didn't know where I was, I had to pull over and ask somebody, because that's not me. That's Nick. But then I finally found my way back home. I said, "This ain't going to work. This ain't going to work." And I'd stay home and sew, and I'd go back and see him, and then he asked me, "How's that working?" I said, "Are you out of your mind? I can't even, I have panic attacks now." And he says, "Well, we could give you medicine," but no, no. So I learned to deal with the panic attacks. I would look at something in the room. This is before I even had this room. Okay, it was a screen in the other room, on the couch. Panic attacks was like almost having a heart attack. So if I had a heart attack, I would thought I would be having a panic attack. That's how bad they are. And I would just focus in something in the corner and take deep breaths. I know that sounds simple to everybody, but it does work. Just take deep breaths, close your eyes, and think. Think of something. Go to your happy place, and you will calm down. I thought they were nuts when they told me that. So I got me a lawyer up there in Lexington, and I have paper this thick. I wrote to her. She told me, "You have to be patient, 2 years, be patient, and then you'll get your disability." I just couldn't understand what was going on. I really couldn't understand. Well, then my friend Don Johnson would pick me up, and he would take me out in the country, the places we went, because he used to drive combines and whatever. He would take them. "Do you remember this place?" "No." "Do you remember this place?" "No." He said, "We've been here thousands of times." "I'm sorry, I don't remember." He's trying to help my memory. And then Paul calls me up one day, and he says, "Guess what? We're going to go on a trip." "We are, and you're going to drive." I said, "Paul, I can't even drive out of the driveway." That was the best thing Paul ever done for me. We went. We left here. We drove in his car. We left. Where'd we go? We went to Wisconsin to visit his stepdaughter. Wisconsin, till Paul ain't going nowhere near Chicago. We drove right through Chicago. I could kill them. Chicago, we went to Pennsylvania, saw my friends up there. Who else did we see? We were going to Mohegan. Mohegan. Was it Mohegan? Mohegan Lake up there in New York, I think it was. And we went and saw Kenny and Leanne. And then we shot down to North Carolina, saw Ann. She lived in Hillsboro. We stayed there for a while, and then we went to the Smokies and came home. That was the best thing Paul ever done for me. Then my memory would come back. Everything was starting to come back. And then after we got back from that trip, now I'm not a person to sit around, but Paulie and I were walking around for Christmas. I think it was around about 6 months after we got back from our big trip. That's when Paul had his stroke. And we just left. We left Tractor Supply and came back. And I told Paulie, I'll see you the next day. I'll call you. Okay. Well, I called him morning, afternoon, and night. And then I called the shop and said, go down, break down the damn door. Something's wrong with Paul. By the time I hit the interstate, I don't remember going through Linden. I don't remember going through Louisville. By the time I hit the interstate, 911 was there, and he refused. Oh no. Oh, hell no. Mm-mm. And he had blood all over the place. So I knew it was more than what he was. He laid on the bed, paralyzed from the neck down. And Missy kept jumping up at the door, barking like something. She knew something was wrong. And I argued with him. I said, guess what, buddy boy? I'm here. You know, I worried about you. You're going to the VA. You like it or not? Well, we went to Vanderbilt first and then over to the VA. And I remember the ambulance guy said, now you're not going to be able to keep up. He don't know me. I'm from almost upstate New York, Pennsylvania. You know how people drive up there, crazy as hell. He goes, you won't be, behind me when we get there. When that ambulance pulled in, I was right there. He said, where are you from? I'm from Pennsylvania. We all drive crazy. New York, Pennsylvania area. Yep. I found out my best friend, Fox, was at the VA. So now Paul is in the emergency room. So Paul's on one side and Fox is on the other side of me. And I can hear him. I'm like, he kept calling me Ducky. That's Foxy used to call me Ducky. Ducky, is that you? I'm like, Fox, is that you? I'm in the ER with Paul. Well, I go out of one room, told Paul, I'll be right back. Went about 2 doors down, and there was Fox. What are you doing here? And he had like a mild stroke. So Marcia's not there. Down here in Linden. I call her up and said, listen, when you get a chance, Paul, your husband's in the ER up here at the VA. Or, we're at the VA. And I says, I'm here. I'm here with both of them. I'll wait for when you get up. So he did. And I found out this is around Christmas time. And then Chris's sister lives in Dixon. And, she didn't want her husband come, don't sign any papers for him. And I'm like, I just needed some papers filled out. That's all, because I'm not very good at filling out papers. And I never really left his side until we were supposed to go to Georgia. And I told George I don't feel comfortable coming down there for Christmas time, just because Paul was up here and Fox was up here. And Chris says, I'll stay with Paul. I said, okay, that works for me. So we left for Georgia. And Marcia called me a day, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Fox died. I was not in a good mood. I was like, this is not good. I told George, we're going to go home. I'm sorry, son. Christmas was over with anyways. I came back. I went back up to the ER. They had Paul in the room. Um, yeah, Paulina room. And then he tells me, as I'm traveling back up here from Georgia, that he has bladder cancer. I'm like, really? You're already paralyzed in the right arm. Now you're paralyzed in the left leg, and you have bladder cancer on top of everything? What is wrong with this picture? I said, you're going to be okay. I never left his side after that. After we left the VA hospital, everybody down here was sick with some kind of flu. They asked me where we wanted to get his rehab started, and I says, well, we ain't going to Dixon. We'll bring him over here to Parsons. And one day we had to stay in a hell place for our veterans. Bordeaux, up there in Nashville. Why is our veterans staying in a hellhole place? I mean, that's what it was. These people didn't give a rat's ass about our veterans. I was so angry. Oh, I stayed with Paul because he was paralyzed. Now he's paralyzed on the right arm. He's paralyzed on the left leg. And I'm thinking to myself, there's no way hell I'm leaving this boy by himself here in this hellhole. And I told them they would not. I was going to transport him down here myself. I did transport him down here myself. They load him up in my car. Let me back up. They were going to give him a bath, and the people were so rough to him. I said, "Oh, stop right there. Stop right there. You ain't touching him. Nope. Mm-mm. No, he's under my care now. I don't care. You have to be an advocator to whoever you love or who you protect, your friends, whatever." And even the man from the VA, before Paul came to my house, I had everything I needed for Paul. Everything. I did not take no for an answer. Nope. Mm-mm. Nope. I had his bed. I had his lifts. I had his air mattresses. I had everything that I needed to take care of him in my house. I had fancy wheelchairs. I had fancy everything for him. I got him service connected. I pushed for the paperwork for him to get service connected. I didn't take no for the answer. When I got Paul down here, after we left that hellhole place in Nashville, Bordeaux, it makes me sick how they treat our veterans up there. Got him in the car, brought him down here, got him in the nursing home in Parsons. They helped me get him out, and that's where he did his therapy. He spent January, February, and March in there. Come March the 3rd, I remember as plain as day, he had to have his bladder cancer removed. Yep, we went to Vanderbilt for that. I drove him from Parsons all the way up to Vanderbilt. Stayed with him until he had a surgery, took him home, and brought him back. And I brought him here. And this is where he moved in here with us. I told Nick, I said, it's funny. He has 2 brothers. Jimmy and Billy live in New York. Richie lives in Florida. John and what's the other brother's name? Oh, I can't think of the other brother's name, sorry. They're the 2 baby brothers. Ronnie and Johnny, that's it. Ronnie and Johnny lived in Dixon, and Chris, the only sister, lived in Dixon. No one, and I mean no one, from that family would help him. And he was the oldest. I told Nick, I said, what's wrong with this picture? He's a veteran. He's from Vietnam. He served, and no one of his family would stick up and help him. I said, oh, hell no, that ain't happening. Nope, nope, mm-mm. Well, let me tell you, that Yankee boy, I brought him home, and we fought like brother and sister. I swear to God, I thought we were going to kill each other. I'm telling you. But I didn't take no. And now he was a smoker. Nope. He did not smoke here. He drank. I let him drink his vodka. You know, right up to the end. I took care of him. So we had to trade his car, and we bought that van out there. That's how I got him around. Right up at the end, I took him. We went places. He was learning how to walk because I did not take no for an answer. You're going to get up. I had physical therapy here, and he was learning how to walk. Yep. Up there, he had a bed sore in Nashville. This is how bad this place up there. They let him lay on his butt. You have to move him around, you know. That's why he had an air mattress. He had a sore as big as my fist, and it wasn't closing. I never done any of this stuff before. I was not a nurse, but they taught me how to what to do, and I had his wound all healed up. I mean, I got him. We went places. We went to Florida. We visited Kenny, his best friend, his childhood friend. They're both in heaven right now. Probably giving God hell. I mean, really. We would go to New York to see him all the time. Then I got Paul. I didn't take no for an answer, so I got him a powered wheelchair. I got him a scooter also. He used the scooter for a while. It's still out in the shed, and his powered wheelchair. And some of the things I got from whatever he needed, he had it. Once he got service connected, then he got his false teeth. I remember the time him going. He says, "I got to get my teeth on. I have heart rhythm." I said, "Buddy, you're getting your teeth done as soon as you get service connected." He got that done. You know, I had to give him some kind of shots. He had like a PICC line from his arm to his heart, and they showed me how to give him his shots that he needed. Had to take the air out and make sure he cleaned everything. I did that. He stayed with me for 5 years. I kept him alive for 5 years, and we were like brother and sister. I mean, we were so close. Now, I can't watch, what is that movie he always liked? CIA or CI. It's from New York, you know. That was his favorite show. I would not sleep, but I would get in the bed with him, and we would sit there and watch, you know. And I'd fall asleep and say, "You're not watching TV." Yeah, okay, Paul. Yeah, I took good care of him. Before he came to my house, we had power attorney. He made me power attorney. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But Nick was here to help me. Now he has a business. You know, he's at CB shop up there in Dixon. And all his co-workers were stealing from him as he's in the hospital. And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is wrong with this picture? The salespeople called me up. Mrs. Duck, do you have $4,000 you can give me to keep the sales tax? I said, hell no. He owed sales tax money or something that she wanted me to pay, and they wanted me to keep shop going. I said, no, they're stealing from him. No, it's not happening. Nope. So what I did was I closed the shop down. Come and lock up the doors. By that time, now Paulie is still in the hospital having his surgery. Bring him home March the 3rd, and he gets an eviction notice from his people. He rented the CB shop, the yellow building up there. And here I'm thinking to myself, what moron? Paul just had surgery. I had to get Barb here just to, stay here in case something happens. I bought me a shed. I moved all his stuff from the shed, his shack, into that shed. Rented a U-Haul truck. And he just had surgery. They only gave him like 7 days to get his shit out of his house. And they ransacked. So now Paul's like here. He says, make sure you go to under the bed in the house. I said, what's under the bed in the house? I hated to go there by myself, but I did. Is it there? Is it there? I said, what am I looking for, Paul? A safe. Okay. No, there is no safe. Are you sure? I said, Paul, I'm looking under your bed. There ain't nothing under the waterbed in that house. And now, of course, he's getting angry, So, meanwhile, that goes on. We get everything down here, get everything settled. 2 months later, now they're saying the salespeople, like the sales tax people, because he owes so much money, they had more money going out than coming in. Well, by that time, Paul was able to travel. We rented a U-Haul, and I called up the guy that brought me that shed. I said, it's your lucky day. Can you move a shed for me? Sure. We took the shed off the property and brought it down here. So now I got 3 sheds and all the CB stuff and everything. And I paid some guy to strip, and I mean strip, that building. We had no air conditioning, no water, no cell tower, no nothing. I took you want to piss me off? They pissed me off the wrong way. They thought they were going to go back to work there after they stole from Paul. Oh, hell no. No, you do that to me, that's your worst nightmare. Don't ask me why I'm telling you this. I have no idea. It's just, I'm just thinking about Paul. Today's his birthday. Maybe I'm supposed to tell you that. I don't know. Nick and I, we got in a big red truck, took Paul up there, got him in there, brought his wheelchair, and he's going through some stuff, and then I stripped everything in that CB shop. Of course, things were already gone that they took from Paul. That was Sandy and Mike and whoever worked there. And I brought all this stuff here. I said, Paul, I am not going through all this stuff. After he passed, then we went through this stuff. I had people's radios that were just worked on and we're supposed to give them back to them. But I didn't want to deal through that. I mean, I've had CB radios and antennas, and I still have his radio, his CB radio that's in my house, in my shed, with my his oh God, I got what is that damn thing called? I think it's you can talk to different countries on a nice skip. You know what I'm talking about, Dan? On a nice skip. I still have that in my shed. Yep. And then right at the end, he moved in. Let's see, when did he move here? March of 15. And he stayed with me until October the 7th of 2019. We had some good times. I took good care of him. And no one, once he moved in, I was his power of attorney. I never took no for an answer, and got him service connected. And then his family, his younger brother, he was sick. I mean, really sick. Chris, I called Chris and said, Chris, it's almost time. Y'all need to be here. Now he has a daughter, and his daughter would never talk to him. And I'm like, he is not the same person. Trust me, he's not. And I called her and tell her that he passed. But yeah, when I was going to go get my flu shot one day, and Paul looked over at me and said, "You going to church?" No, I'm not going to church. I'm going to go get a flu shot. Right then and there, I knew. So he's Catholic, Paul is. And I called up a preacher up here, a Catholic preacher, and that man was from Ireland. I said, oh my God, this is perfect. So he came to the house and gave Paul his last rites. And Paul, he was telling the preacher, was telling him stories when he was a kid. I miss about Paul. He used to tell me stories. What he did what he did with the kids and everything. And I'm like, that's what I miss. And the preacher said, I had to leave the room. I said, fine. And then the preacher said, do you know why Miss Daisy called you? He said, no, I don't know why Daisy called you. He said, because you're dying. And Paul goes, I'm not dying. If I'm dying, I need to do things. Well, Paul's a little late. When the VA and Vanderbilt write you off, that's it. And I just couldn't get my head around why they couldn't help him anymore. He just stopped eating. And then he stopped drinking. And then he had a bladder bag, I guess, that, sorry. Let me get some coffee here. Hold on. Okay. Yeah. And then I put my little couch in his room and fixed up his room for him. So I wouldn't be, I'd be there with him. And then one day, he was on hospice care. And they told me I can give him some morphine. Well, Paul never took morphine. He never took it. You know, I'd give him some, but it didn't faze him. And I walk in his room, in my other room where we keep our storage stuff in there. I walk in there and I'm like, Paul, what are you doing? I mean, his bed is all the way up to the ceiling. I said, Paul, where are you going? He said, I can hear God up here. I said, okay. I bring him back down. I give him his medicine. The next day, same thing. He brought his bed up there. I said, now what is it today, Paul? Same thing. I hear God up here. I said, okay, brought him back down. Well, I have a couple of videos where they removed his leg. You know, they amputated his leg. That was a couple of years ago they did that because it was all numb and he wasn't getting no blood flow. So he has no leg, no left leg. His right arm's paralyzed. And he went through, when your body goes through, it defecates, you know, just over and over and over. Of course, I always kept him clean and dry, and he had to wear diapers. And nobody should have to go through this, but I did. Maybe this is why I need to talk about it. Who knows? I don't know. But I remember him. We're watching TV, and he's going like this, back and forth. Wee, wee. I said, Paul, what are you doing? He said, I'm riding my bike. So they say you go back and when you're a kid. And I guess he was riding his bike, you know. Well, that's when David lived over here, and he had all these damn dogs, and he played his loud music where that trailer used to be beside us. And all the dogs were quiet, even our dogs. We had Missy and Lily and Baby Girl and Honey at the time. Lena and Rusty wasn't even thought of yet. And he looks up at me, leans over at me and looks, and he said, angry animals. I said, Paul, all the dogs are sleeping. There's no angry animals. So I don't know if he went from heaven to hell. Who knows? You know, we won't know. Kept saying angry animals, and then he, go back to sleep. Well, I could tell I had to burn a candle because the smell of a body decaying. I had the window cracked. And had the air conditioner running. And then the next morning, October the 7th, he started having convulsions. And then all the black stuff came out of his nose, his mouth. And first thing I did was I called Ann. What do I do, Ann? Because she's been through this. Roll him over on his side. I rolled him over on his side. No, wait, back up. That morning, again, he was high as a kite. Brought him back down. And then I gave him his medicine, walked out, and then that's when he started convulsion. And then I rolled him over on his side. I had him in my arms, and then he took one deep breath. I told him I love him. I love him. And we'll all miss you. And he took one deep breath, and that was it. He was gone. You know that heater that I have in my kitchen? When the Corman people came to take him away, I almost ripped that damn thing off the wall, because he was in my care for all that time. I took good care of him. Told Dick, don't you damn get sick on me. I'll put your rats in a nursing home. I know I wouldn't. Missy laid there with him. I had to give her a bath. I was just not there. Hey, Bub. Hi. Okay. All right. You're just so much lovely boy, aren't you? Everybody needs a Bub. Everybody needs a Bub. Okay, Bub. Hold on, everybody. You done love my mama? Huh? You done? Okay. All right. Do you mind? I can't breathe. I cannot breathe. Big boy. Big boy. Get down. Can you get down? Thank you. Get down. Oh my goodness. Oh, get down. Get down. Stay over there. Oh, he comes in with his cold nose and he sticks it in my. Oh, you got your toy there. Okay. Still working on it. Yep. When the coronary guy came, I called the doctor first after this all happened. He died at 8:30 in the morning on October the 7th. And when the coronary guy came in the black car, how do you want Paul to go out? You want to dress him up? I said, hell no. He came in butt naked. He's going out butt naked. So that did wrap a sheet around him. He went out butt naked. So meanwhile, he's up there in Waverly, and the machine is broken. He is going to be cremated. I called the doctor, told him what happened, his nurse, and all the people that took good care of him. And it was nice. They sent me a little card, Whoa, it was hard when you lose somebody you care about and take care of for a long time. So now they always say now the brothers and sisters come out of the wall. They want whatever. So before Polly died, I had Ronnie. Long story. When this all was taking place, that safe that was under the bed had a gun in it. And some money, I guess. And it wasn't there. When we were moving Paul's stuff, somebody came up to Paul and I and said, I'll sell you a gun. And what kind of gun was it? It was the gun that Paul had under the bed. Ronnie and Johnny stole it. Paul didn't want nothing to do with them after that. But when Paul was dying and they came, I let Ronnie come here to the house and his girlfriend. And they sat there with him, talked to him. Paul was already, didn't know he was there. as he was walking out of Paul's room, my room there, he looked at Paul's wheelchair. Oh, I'd like to have that wheelchair. I said, if you're not a veteran, you're not getting that wheelchair. I still have the wheelchair. So now they're trying their damnedest to get Paul from my house to their house. I looked at Ronnie and Trina. I said, Paul is not leaving anywhere. Paul is staying right here until he passes. Well, that didn't go over real big. So they're thinking Paul has all this money and everything. Paul had nothing to his name. Nothing. He made damn sure there was nothing in his name at all, because he knew what the family was like. And I didn't know what the family was like until this all happened. Since Paul had nothing in his name, he didn't have to go to probate at all. That's one good thing. So we're down there after this is all done and everything. We're in Florida. I'm visiting my friend Jim. And Ronnie's trying to threaten me. Well, one good thing Paul did was made out a will. And he put everything in my name. Nothing went to anybody on that side. He didn't have anything. Let me tell you, Paul had zero. Paul was homeless after he had a stroke. Nobody on his side of the family would take care of him, do anything for him. Even when Paul was here at my house, I think his sister came maybe 1 or 2 times, 3 times, the whole time Paul lived here. And she only lives like an hour away, hour and a half away. I would get Paul all dressed up. When she said she was coming, she never showed. So when she'd call and say, I'm coming, we knew better. We knew better. She was flaky. Well, Paul, happy birthday in heaven, buddy. You and Kenny up there giving God a hard time. I know it. Oh, no, it's not for you, bub. Not for you. They're for Mommy. Too bad you didn't know Uncle Paulie. Huh? Say, Lily did. Lily knew Uncle Paulie. No, this is Mommy's Kleenex, not for Bubba. Not for Mr. Bob. Yeah, today he would have been 81 today. Yeah, happy birthday, Paul. He's up in heaven. He's up there with his brothers and his mom and everybody. Huh? He's up there with Lily, not Lily. Missy, his own puppy, and Tick, and who else is up there? Yep. So now he's being cremated, and the machine is broken. And they're asking me, when can we go? Hey, you can go up there anytime you want to see him. So I don't know if they ever did or anything. Finally got his ashes back, and I got all for all the family, and the ashes I got up here. And he always wanted to be buried up there with his mom and dad in Dixon. So when he passed, I got him a nice stone. You know, he was where he was born. And matter of fact, he wasn't from the United States. He was born in Germany. Never got his citizenship. Now, what's wrong with this picture? Here he served in the U.S. Army, went to Vietnam, was a gunner on a helicopter. He said, they're always trying to give me some buckshot underneath. And he never become a citizen. I said, aren't you going to vote this year? He said, I can't. I said, why not? He says, because I never got my citizenship. I said, you served in the U.S. Army. He said, yeah, they never gave me a citizenship thing. I'm like, holy hell, Paul. So, yep, he never got his citizenship in England. Someday I'll get to go to Joy. Someday I'll get to bring Paul's ashes back home to England. That's where Paulie was born. His dad was a U.S. soldier, and his mom was from England. I don't know where in England, but he was born there. And he had the cutest curls, dressed like a little girl. Curly hair he had. Yeah. And then we got connected, and so that's when he was still alive, right before he died, I turned this room into my sewing room. Because where he was, that was my sewing room. I think God has purpose for all of us, you know? I think because God put me, I was having a hard time when I got off the road, and Paulie was there. And then Paul come to live with me. Paul's gone. I'm still here. And that's why I have these long, crazy hours. I can't sleep because, I took care of him. I still get up at 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes. And then I have the TV on all the time. Just noise in the background. That's what Paul used to do. So, well, I probably bored y'all. I'm sorry. Happy birthday, Paulie. Up there in heaven with, I know he's probably working on CVs, and maybe he's an angel. And that was weird how I remembered Paul. I heard his voice, but he looked different. And it felt so real. Oh my God, it felt so real. Well, listen, I've bored you guys too much now. We will talk again. Have a good, what is this, Wednesday? This is Wednesday, or is this Tuesday? What is today? Today's Tuesday. Paul's 81 today, the 27th. I even had it on the calendar, see, up there. Well, thank y'all. I'm sorry to bore you with my long story about Paul. It was a special day today for Paulie, 81. And it felt like yesterday, him passing. Isn't that weird? Well, Jenny and everybody, I'm glad y'all are okay and had a nice holiday. Now I got a design in my head. I'm going to start sewing. I'm going to pull some fabric. All right, I love y'all. Have a good day. This is Jennifer Duck. Yeah, you are in my sewing room. See? See ya.